Okay, so this was kind of like an impulse video for me today, but today we are going to learn how to properly build, construct, and present a PowerPoint presentation, or any presentation for that matter. If you're using PowerPoint, Keynote, OpenOffice, LibreOffice, whatever you use to build your presentation, you are going to learn how to properly construct it. This has been something that has been bugging me for years, and I was kind of hoping that people would learn how to do this. Or we have learned how to do it, but apparently we're not understanding this, and we don't understand how to build PowerPoint presentations. Students do not understand how to build PowerPoint presentations. Middle schoolers, high schoolers, and even college students, which frightens me. I've seen my fair share of PowerPoints in my day. I've seen more than I would like to remember, but it just seems like we don't understand how to build them properly. We don't understand what PowerPoint is supposed to be. PowerPoint is not supposed to be a teaching tool. It is supposed to be a resource tool, and I don't think we're understanding this, and I don't know if we've never been properly taught how to build a PowerPoint presentation, or we forgot, or if we're just lazy, or whatever the issue is. I'm going to show you how to properly presentation. If you're just reading what's on the slide, you're basically PowerPoint is the teacher, you're the narrator, and that's not the way it works. That's not the way it was ever designed for. I know teachers don't really grade PowerPoint presentations based on your actual presentation style. It is based on the content that is presented in your presentation. But I guarantee you, you will not be putting your audience to sleep if you use transactions, build it the proper way, and actually bring in outside information and engage to your audience. And I'm going to show you that. And I know we're not all public speakers. I'm aware of that. I have many friends that are not public speakers. They are, they have a fear of, standing up in front of a classroom and talking to people. Understandable. I can understand that. I don't really have a fear of it, but I know a lot of people do. And I know a lot of people stand behind a podium or a desk or whatever at the front of the class because they feel better up there, they're more comfortable, and that's okay. But if you're just reading what's on the slide, it can get a little boring. So I'm going to show you how to not bore your audience, put your audience to sleep, and create good presentations that you'll be proud of. And let's get started. So first off, I'm going to show you an example of a presentation that I created a couple years back. This is actually a Keynote. I did it in Apple's Keynote. Of course, I do almost all my presentations in Keynote. But I'm going to show you this presentation. This is one that I did when I was at JCC. There's actually two that I have at JCC that I did. I haven't been to JCC in a couple years, so these presentations are a couple years old. Sorry, I had to take a drink of water there. But let's go ahead and view this. And I'm going to show you some of the best practices. So here we go. You notice the slide falls in. Notice the pictures, text transitions. Again, all this helps engage your audience, because in that way, if you're engaging your audience this way, they're less tempted to fall asleep on you. Now here, we're going to talk about the foundations of Apple first before we get into the history of the Macintosh itself. Look at the pictures. There's Steve, there's Woz, there's Wayne. That's the first Apple logo. And now we get into the text. Notice how it just says April 1st, 1976 in Palo Alto, California. I think what everybody would write here for the beginning sentence would be, Apple was founded on April 1st, 1976 in Palo Alto, California by Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Reagan. That's too long. So this is how I did it. Notice. Boom, that's perfect. Steve Jobs, Steve Woz, Ronald Wayne. Boom, that's the house it was built in. That's the house. That is Steve Jobs' parents' house. It was built right in that garage. Boom. And you noticed how, and what I did here is I added outside information. So basically, as I presented this, we all know Steve Jobs, so I didn't have to really point that out. That's Wozniak right there underneath Steve, and right underneath Steve is Wayne. Very first Apple logo. And I pointed out this was Steve Jobs' parents' house. This was where Apple was built in his garage back in '76. So again, notice the pictures, very little text. Now we get into the first Apple computer, the Apple I. This is what it looked like. And again, minimal text. Sold for $6,666. You can make fun of that number. A lot of people do. It ran on 1 megahertz. That was the fastest it ran at. 4 kilobytes of RAM. And so that's what you got in 1976. And I added other outside information on that as well. How it was built, where it was built, how it was constructed, and all that stuff. That's what you do. Again, here are other Apple DOS machines. This is the Apple II and the Apple III. So again, I added, this is the Apple II, this is the Apple III, there's different revisions, blah, 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 and all that stuff. So again, add in outside information, little text, engage your readers. Now we get into the Macintosh. This was the Macintosh, very first one. It sold for $24.95. Motorola 6800 at 6 megahertz, 128 kilobytes of RAM, And it was the first Mac to run Mac OS. Perfect. You don't need any more text than that. I mean, you don't need to type big, long sentences. The Macintosh, this was the original Macintosh in 1984. It was introduced at blah, 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 blah conference and blah, 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 blah. It had a Motorola 68000 6 megahertz processor with 128 kilobytes of RAM. And this was also that's too long. That is too long. Way too long. We don't need big, long sentences. Short, little sentences will do, because the whole point of PowerPoint is to let the PowerPoint be the, kind of let it be a tool. Don't let it be the teacher. You're the teacher. When you're up there presenting this, you are the teacher. You are supposed to show that your other classmates that you know this topic. If you're just typing big, long sentences into PowerPoint and just repeating what's on it with adding no background information, that doesn't help. And you know, I added all this background information in there. That's what you do. Macintosh Portable, again, this was Apple's first portable machine, $6,500. Motorola 65000 at 16 megahertz, 1 megabyte of RAM, Mac OS System 604. Perfect, don't need any more than that. PowerBook, now we get into the PowerBook range. It's PowerBook 100, 150. Again, there it goes. There's the PowerBook 100, 140, and the 180. I don't know where I came up with 150. There was a 150, actually. And I also pointed out all these different machines had different specs. The PowerBook 100 was not actually designed by Apple. That's why it kind of looks different. The PowerBook 100 was actually designed, I think, by Sony, if I remember. But again, I added background information. You don't need big, long paragraphs. This is the PowerBook line. These were Apple's first, these were Apple's first modern PowerBooks. You know, the PowerBook was the first portable computer on the market that had a pointing device integrated in, which was the trackball. The first, I added all that. You don't need to add that into the slide. That's all background information. Show your audience that you know the topic. The return of Steve Jobs in '97. Again, short sentence. CEO Gil Amelio bought out Next Computer, owned by Jobs. All developments and people came to Apple. Amelio resigned, gave all power to Jobs. Jobs became the interim CEO. Boom, that's all you need. There's Gil, over to Steve. Perfect. You don't need any more than that. iMac, 1998. Again, this was the original iMac. Remember the bubble iMacs? Colorful? Here we go. First consumer desktop from Apple. 233 megahertz G3, 32 megs RAM, 4 gig hard disk, $12.99. Boom. That's all you need on the slide. And all the other information that might be important and topical, you add in the background. For example, I said, this is the iMac. It was Steve Jobs introduced this at the Macworld Expo in 1998 with a great round of applause. Who remembers the little, hockey puck mouse that Apple said that Steve Jobs said was the best mouse in the world? It actually turned out to be total crap. So again, you add all that in, background information, show your audience you know the topic. Again, iBook, 1999, the two colors of iBook, tangerine and blueberry. I have the orange tangerine color. Again, I actually have that one. First consumer notebook from Apple. 300 megahertz G3, 32 megs RAM, 3.2 gig hard disk, $17.99. Boom. All the information you add in the background. Bingo. That's all you need. Now this is Airport. Airport is Apple's wireless networking name. And again, look at the pictures. That's the Wi-Fi logo. Boom. It's built off IEEE 802.11 standard, 11 megabits per second. Easy to use, and it was affordable. Remember, back in 1999, all this Wi-Fi stuff was new, and it cost a fortune. That's the original Airport base station with the Airport card that went into the computers. Also, one piece of information that I added on this slide, the original iBook in 1999, the one that looked like a toilet seat, the clamshell iBook, that was the first Apple portable ever, and the first actual laptop in the entire industry to be built with wireless. It was ready for wireless. It had antennas built in. All you needed was the card. You installed the card, and then you could get on the wireless. Again, now we're into this. X. A lot of people don't know what this means, but it's actually Mac OS 10, not X, 10. So again, came out in 2000 when Apple first introduced this, Unix Core. Based on Next Step, which was the operating system that the Next computers used. New UI, Aqua. And I showed a picture. This is what Mac OS 10.0 looked like. And again, it might look a little bit similar to those of you who might have used older versions of OS 10. This is what it looked like, the very first version of OS 10. And this was 10.8 Mountain Lion. Of course, I made this back in 2012. So Mountain Lion was the OS that was out at the time. So this is what it looked like. Of course, it's changed a little bit since this. But pretty much, again, look at it. And again, there's no words here, just pictures. And I notice this is what it looked like, and then this is Mountain Lion current release. Boom, 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 boom. And again, that's all you need. You don't need anything larger than that. Real quickly, here's another one. This is a computer science PowerPoint that I made when I was at JCC. By the way, the PowerPoint that I'm going to be using today is a not official version of PowerPoint. This isn't even out yet. This is PowerPoint 2016. That's going to be a part of Office 2016 for Mac. It is not out yet. It is in a beta stage. As you notice, it looks different for those of you who might have Office 2011 on your Macs. It looks a little bit different because it has a new interface on it. But again, so I probably shouldn't be working in this because this isn't a actual release product, but there is a beta that is available to all Mac users. But anyway, this is the new version of PowerPoint. It looks very similar to the Windows version. But I'm going to be using this version of PowerPoint to do all this, and this all basically stems for every version of PowerPoint, really. So just keep in mind this is a pre-release version of PowerPoint. It's not out yet. You might be using PowerPoint 2011. But anyway, here we go. Slideshow, start from start. Again, look at this. This is a personal computers one. Look at how different it is. Introduction, input, storage, processor, memory, output, operating systems, application software. Again, I don't even remember what the hell this PowerPoint was about, really. And again, these are input devices: keyboards, mouse, touchscreen, camera, microphone, scanner. With some pictures. There's a keyboard. There's a mouse. Boom. That's all you need. Output device is a display, a projector, speakers, printer, and again, there's a projector, there's a printer. Boom. Storage mediums: DVD, CD, hard disks, flash memory, tape. Boom. Pictures. See? Simple. This is all you need. Here's your processor: CPU, CU, ALU, gigahertz, dual core, quad core, pipelining, Intel versus AMD versus RAM, hyper-threading. Boom. Simple. This is all you need. And you can add in background information, of course. This is all you need. Memory, RAM, ROM, SD-RAM, DDR, DIMM. Again, look at this. This is all you need. You don't need to write big, long sentences. Operating systems: Windows 8, Mac OS 10 Mountain Lion, which is now Yosemite, Linux, iOS, and I probably should have put Android on here too, but me being the Apple fan that I am, I didn't. And of course, this is iOS 6. It's actually now iOS 8. So, application software. Again, look at this: word processing, spreadsheets, games, web browsers, video audio editing. There's Word, Excel, Firefox, Safari, Final Cut Pro, the old version, and Logic Pro. Again, look at this. That's all you need. You don't need to have big, long sentences. And I don't know why we do this. I think a lot of it is because we're lazy. We don't need to do that. And this also works with Keynote as well. I'm going to go back into Keynote. And I'm going to create a new presentation. And I'm going to do, let's see, I'll just pick craft. I'll just pick that one. And I think on the title, I'll choose example, and then hello. Then I'm going to do a new slide. And now I'm just going to do, so let's say that I'm going to do a history of, let's say, the PowerBook, which was the MacBook Pro of yesterday. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look up PowerBook. I'm going to do a little research on it. And I'm going to do PowerBook. Right in Google here. And let's say I'm going to use, say, Wikipedia, everyone's favorite source. And so here it is. The PowerBook, known as Macintosh PowerBook before 1997, is a line of Macintosh laptop computers that were designed, manufactured, and sold by Apple Computer from 1991 to 2006. So in this case, I might do, PowerBook beginnings. There we go. And I'm going to say, this is what normal people would do. This is what normal people would do. And this is not how you type. And still, I still think this sentence is a little too long. But again, I'll just keep going. Actually, we don't even need Apple in there, really. We just need Macintosh PowerBook. So again, this is what normal people would do, and it would just go on and on and on and on. And then when you would present, this is how it would look like when you present. That. I mean, come on now. This is not what you do. So in this case, let's try to truncate this. I'm just going to get rid of this bullet point. We're going to truncate this. We're going to just delete all this, and this is how you would shrink that bullet and add in. So this is what you would do. Boom. This is all you know. Then drag it. See, I'd forget my head if it wasn't attached. Truncate that. Boom. And still, even if that you do this, some people still do not put any text on the slide. Still, people do not put any effects on the slide. And still, this is still boring because people read it faster than you're presenting it. And still, even if you add background information, they might get back engaged, but again, you'll lose your audience. So how you compensate for that is over here. If you're using Keynote, over here on the right side, this is called your inspector. I'm going to click on Animate, add an effect, and let's say I want this to squash, like that. Now that all comes up at once, but we can change that. Delivery by bullet. And I'm going to say this picture of the PowerBook gets to come in there. And I'm going to do let's do a scale on that. Boom. And now when we view our show, one bullet comes up. So let's say I'm going to talk about that. The PowerBook was the top of the line. That's what TOL stands for, of Apple's laptop line. And then add in a little background information between that. Sold between 1991 and 2006. And it was aimed for professionals. And you always add in some little bits of information within each bullet. And then there's your PowerBook. Boom. That is all you need. You don't add the bullshit in the slide. You add the bullshit out of your mouth as background information in the presentation when you're giving it. You speak it. That's what you do. So, because I know that some teachers will tell you that, some English teachers will tell you that in your essays. This is not one of those times. You don't do that with a PowerPoint. And it's never worked that way. I'm going to end it here. Thank you for watching. I hope you take these tips, apply them to your next PowerPoint. And I want to see, the next time I see a PowerPoint, it better look like this.